Hello, Canucks fans. Welcome back to another episode of Canucks Conversation, which is brought to you by Bet365. Open an account with Bet365 today and bet on a huge range of markets. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Be sure to use code NATION when you sign up for an account. My name is Dave Guadrelli. I am joined by Harman Dial. It is Canucks Conversation. It is a game day edition of Canucks Conversation here on Thursday, January 23rd, the day of our watch party. It's episode 748 of Canucks Convo. I'm very excited for the watch party tonight, Harm. It's going to be a really good time. I know, unfortunately, you can't make it, which is okay. We forgive you this time. Sources are saying you were scared to face me again in basketball. Can you comment?
It'd be pretty funny if the guy who beat you last time would be scared.
You hardly.
It doesn't make logical sense, does it?
You beat me by what? 2 points? Like one basket?
A win's a win. The first time you barely beat me, so it's the same thing.
I know. So tiebreaker.
Why would I be scared if I beat you last time?
Well, I don't know. You tell me. You're the one not showing up tonight.
Because of work obligations, I got to write.
Oh,
and I can't write Greta.
Gotta want it more. No, we'll have our
next time.
We'll have our tiebreaker eventually. There's gonna be more watch parties, and we'll tell you more info about the watch party. But it is a game day. We gotta talk about this game: Canucks versus Oilers. Revenge. Revenge. People are wondering, is there going to be a fight? That was the poll question of the guys over on Oilers Nation every day. Is there going to be a fight? But I was talking more with those guys today, Tyler Remchuk, Liam Horabin over at Oilers Nation. I was on their show today, and what I've mostly seen is that there are a few Oilers fans who are missing the plot a little bit, and there are a few Canucks fans who are missing the plot a little bit. Overwhelmingly, what I'm seeing is that Connor McDavid is frustrated with officials. The fight is Oilers versus the league, not Oilers versus Connor Garland. And I think that's where the messages got a little bit mixed up in Vancouver the past few days, and on Twitter especially, and on X, Blue Sky, whatever you're using. I'm seeing a lot of, Oilers fans are so stupid. They think they need to fight Connor Garland to avenge McDavid. Like, I don't think that's what's happening. I think it's a matter of these teams are already rivals. Let's make that clear. The Oilers are the Canucks' biggest rival at this point, for sure. All it took was a playoff series. There's that aspect of it, and there's the aspect of the Oilers are going to be looking for a win tonight, and it's going to be a hard game. Like, it's going to be a game where they play hard, for sure. They're going to be without their captain, but, like, I don't think we're going to see a fight in this game, or, someone's got to fight Connor Garland. I don't think that's going to happen.
We'll see. I don't expect that Connor Garland is going to have to fight to answer the bell for holding Connor McDavid to the edge for 10 seconds just because he's trying to win the game. But in having said that, I think it's both. I think it's, yes, the Oilers, the players, the media, the fan base are frustrated with the league's officiating, and they believe McDavid has deserved more calls this season. But I also think just seeing the reaction, Oilers fans just straight up hate Connor Garland at this point. And again, it's because of the rivalry. It's because these two teams met in the playoffs. It's because you've got characters on both sides that like to mix it up. So am I expecting Connor Garland to have to drop the gloves? No, but I wouldn't be surprised if this is another chippy physical game just because these two teams don't like each other. And just look at the cast of characters that the Oilers have and how many disturbers could get involved in some of these shenanigans. They got
Darnell Nurse,
Corey Perry, Leon Draisaitl has some meanness to him, especially when the game starts to go against him. He can really lose his temper, really start to lose his cool and take on discipline penalties. They just got guys that have a short fuse, and the Canucks have players that can get under the Oilers' skin. So I'm expecting a really fun, entertaining, high-stakes matchup tonight.
Mike Rogerson in the chat. Garland versus Stetcher for the lightweight title. That's what I'm talking about. I'd love to see it. You love to see it. Okay, Harm, let's continue to break down this game. Tonight's game, Thatcher Demko gets his fourth straight start. It's the first time this season that he will start 4 straight games, and this has to do with Kevin Lankinen still recovering from that flu that worked its way through the Canucks dressing room. Lankinen is going to back up tonight, so he's probably going to get the next game. Like, he's nearing being able to be ready to go, but it's going to be a 4th straight start for Thatcher Demko. I talked about it yesterday. I think I've talked about it a lot this week, that I really like the idea of starting Thatcher Demko and getting him on a bit of a run here, even if he's not putting up the numbers, just getting him some game action. And we're going to talk about that later. We're going to talk about Kevin Lankinen. It's the subject of our poll question. It's the title of today's show. We're going to talk about Lankinen. We're going to talk about trades and all that. But as we continue on talking about this game, Harm, Thatcher Demko starts in goal. Obviously, no real surprise there. The one thing I do want to get out there, same defense core for tonight's game. Elias Pettersson from Abbotsford was called up last night after the show. I didn't get a chance to get on my soapbox, but if you've listened to this show this week, you'll know that right here in my notebook, I went to Abbotsford and I watched a game and I took notes. And one thing that I noted was that Elias Pettersson moved the puck really well, got into board battles really well, came away with the puck more often than not, skated it up the ice very well. And I was singing his praises this week and saying I'd like to see this kid get a shot. He's not in the lineup tonight, won't make his NHL debut. The one thing I will say, Harm, is I wanted to see him in tonight. I really, really want to see him in next game when the Canucks are back at home.
Yeah, I don't mind the idea of holding off his NHL debut. Edmonton is one of the most dynamic, explosive offensive teams in the NHL. And when you're playing on the road and don't have last change, it's harder to shelter a guy like Pettersson. There's a higher likelihood that you might get trapped with Pettersson stuck on the ice for a defensive zone draw, and the Oilers can capitalize on that by throwing McDavid or Draisaitl on the ice. I just don't think for a player that's never played in the NHL that it's the ideal environment for him to make his NHL debut, especially because this would be a different story if he was a right side defenseman. If he was a right side defenseman, the right side outside of Hronek has been a disaster this year.
He would have been up here from game 5.
Exactly. But you look at the left side, Derek Forbort played really well last game. You're not taking him out of the lineup, especially because of what he means to the penalty kill. And I'm sure some fans may look at Carson Soucy's disappointing play this year and say, well, why don't you yank Soucy out of the lineup? At the end of the day, even though Soucy has struggled, we're talking about a guy who still plays the toughest matchups against McDavid's, the Draisaitl's, the McKinnons. It's just not the same job description. And it's unfair to yank him out of lineup and expect a rookie defenseman playing his NHL debut to slot into that type of role. So I don't mind the idea of holding off. But like you said, if the blue line struggles this game, then next game when you're back at home, you can shelter him a little bit better. That's when I think you want to put him in a position to succeed is the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. And people were asking how I would configure the blue line because I went on Blue Sky today and I went on Twitter today and said, get him in there, want to see him in the game tonight. How would you configure the blue line? Well, the Canucks do have options when it comes to this. The first thing I thought of was, didn't really love what I saw from Mark Friedman. He's going to get another turn playing alongside Quinn Hughes tonight, so we'll see how that goes. But Friedman's defense partner is Elias Pettersson. So in my head, I was thinking, okay, if you really want to stick with splitting up Hronek, because obviously that's the key here. If you keep splitting up Hronek, then you have options. If you put Hronek and Hughes back together, those options dwindle a little bit. But let's say they want to keep Hronek and Hughes separate. You could have Soucy slot up. You could have Forbort slot up to play with Hughes on the offside. Obviously, Soucy's done it before. I think the preference would probably be Soucy and Hughes. Maybe Soucy can benefit from playing with a guy like Hughes, similar to how Tyler Myers benefited from playing with Hughes. I shouldn't say a guy like Hughes. Playing with Hughes. Playing with Hughes benefited Tyler Myers. Maybe it can do the same thing for Carson Soucy. Then obviously you have Derek Forbort. He would end up playing on that second pair with Filip Hronek, and then you'd have a third pairing of Pettersson and Desharnais. Now, I don't think there's going to be anyone out there that sits there and says, no, you can't do that. I really don't think there's a wrong combination for a blue line that's had a lot go wrong for it this year. And quite frankly, a blue line that hasn't shown much promise at all this season. I really like the idea of getting Elias Pettersson in for a game. Agree with you, though, that maybe tonight, road game, not to mention the chippiness aspect of it that we were breaking down in the opening segment here. It is a fine idea to just have him on the road, collect the NHL paycheck, and get him in when they return home on Saturday against the Washington Capitals. I do want to see him get a game, though. I want to see him get that run. Like I said, I was talking to Landon Ferraro about his time in the AHL. We were chatting outside the locker room, and he was even saying, like, you think you know what it takes to play at the NHL, so you think you know what you're working on at the AHL, but until you experience it, you don't know what you really have to start working on. So I'd love to see him get some games. I'd love to see Elias Pettersson get some games here.
Yeah, and it's the configuration you mentioned is exactly what I was thinking in my mind of let's say Saturday night against Washington, at home, you want to find an opportunity to draw Pettersson into the lineup. It's like you said, you yank Friedman out of the lineup in my mind. You go Hughes and then Susie on his offside, Forbert, Hronek, and then you can go DPD with Vinny Desharnais. I think that's totally fine.
The other aspect of it, too, is that's the final game of Tyler Myers' suspension, right? Like, this is game 2 for both Myers, both McDavid of their 3-game suspension. So Myers isn't going to be there Saturday. But when the Canucks head to St. Louis for Monday's game, another prime game, let you know early, when they do that, like, that's where there might not be a spot for Elias Pettersson in this Canucks lineup. And I want to see him get at least one game. I'd probably make the case to play him multiple games, but we'll see. The Canucks are still trying to win games, obviously. We're not at that point where it's, sure, Akito Hirose, sure, who's the guy? Really not great. You could tell right away.
Josh Tevez.
Josh Tevez. There it is. Thank you. Sure, Josh Tevez, you get into a game. Obviously, we're nowhere near that point, even that point of the season. But getting some prospects to look, especially a guy that I personally believe in. I'm making it clear now. I'm a DPD guy. I'm a Elias Pettersson guy. I think he's going to play. I think he's going to be a top 4 defenseman. Bottom 4 defenseman. He'll play on a second pair. He'll be a 3-4. He'll be a 3-4, I think. But you need one of those in your lineup. He moves the puck really well, Harm, and he has way better foot speed than I thought he did. He can skate the puck up. I was really impressed with him. And I know it's the AHL. I get that. And I also know it was San Jose Barracuda who weren't very good. But I did really like what I saw from Pettersson. And I really want to see him get at least one game, hopefully a bit of a run. Get him that 5 games that they like to get most prospects. We'll see. Anything else that you wanted to say about Canucks Oilers? No change in the forward group either, Harm. It's going to be Elias Pettersson. Damn, that's going to get tough. Elias Pettersson with Brock Besser and Jake DeBrusk, JT Miller with Pius Suter and Connor Garland. And of course, you know how the bottom 6 is configuring as well. Anything you want to say about the game?
Yeah, the biggest key when the Oilers and Canucks meet over the last 2 seasons, you can tell if the Canucks are going to have success that night based off how quickly their forecheck is engaged. When the Canucks forecheck is fast, when it is applying pressure against an Edmonton blue line that can struggle to move the puck at times, that's when the Canucks have success. They're able to hem the Oilers in their own end. It prevents Edmonton from being able to power their own sort of transition game. It makes it difficult for Connor McDavid to wind up through the neutral zone. It sort of nullifies their rush attack. And that's honestly the best way to defend against the Oilers is forechecking and keeping them in their own end, as opposed to like when people think about stopping the Oilers and defending well against them, it's not so much in zone that you got to find a way to bend but don't break. It's your best way to defend against them is to attack and spend time with possession of the puck in the offensive zone. So the forecheck is always the first thing that I look for, especially because the Oilers this year up front are slower compared to last year. They lost Dylan Holloway. They lost Ryan McLeod, 2 of the fastest players in the NHL. And they also brought in a guy like Jeff Skinner who doesn't have wheels at all. So that's the biggest key that I'm going to be looking for in the first period to tell whether the Canucks are engaged and on right away as a 5-man unit, how well do they forecheck? Because that's what they did really well against Edmonton last time.
I think an underrated part against the loss against Buffalo was the losing guys in the neutral zone. Like it didn't feel like they were tracking very well in the neutral zone on some of those plays, and I think that's something that you need to be sharp with, of course, against the Oilers. We're not going to play any pregame audio, but Tockett's hoping after his quotes yesterday about how disappointed he is in this team. And actually, I wanted to quickly read some of those quotes because we actually didn't dive into them yesterday. It was one of those things that came out right before we started the show. So, of course, we didn't have time to get into them. But Tocchet said, "I'm obviously very disappointed with last night's game. Going in today, I thought it was really good practice. I know people laugh, yeah, practice, but I didn't like the practice before the Buffalo game. I did like the practice today. Hopefully, it correlates." Tocchet did say he shared that message with the players that he was very disappointed in that game against the Buffalo Sabres. One thing that I found interesting that I wanted to really dive into here was Tocchet was asked about if Hughes was trying to do too much against Buffalo. He said that they talked about it, that Hughes kind of pointed it out to him and that they had a conversation about it. And that's what I find so funny is it's like, you think Tocchet coming out and saying, Hughes is doing too much is going to make headlines. But the reason it didn't make headlines is because Tocchet said, Yeah, we actually had a talk today. He likes to talk after games, and we talked about that. Like, Quinn Hughes is so honest with himself that he can figure out, like, yeah, you know what? I was trying to do a little bit too much in that game. I'm not going to sit here and blame Quinn Hughes for a second for trying to do too much when you see what he's working with right now.
Yeah, it was an off night for him against Buffalo. He was on the ice for all 3 of the Sabres goals against, all of them at 5-on-5. It wasn't a banner night for him, but like you alluded to, can you blame him for thinking I've got to put the team on my back all by myself? Because that's largely what he's had to do for close to 50 games now. And he needs more help. It's really as simple as that. I think part of it too is Filip Hronek, as he puts more distance between the injury that he suffered. Hopefully he can get back to operating at a higher level. Against the Sabres, we know about the missed tap in on the empty net in the third period, but even outside of that, I don't think Hronek was very sharp. And if Hronek can get back to playing to the peak of his potential, especially if those two are separated, and now Hronek is able to drive his own defense pair, then it's going to hopefully settle Hughes in a little bit to where he doesn't feel like the danger is if Quinn goes into a game thinking, I'm the only source of offense on this team. And if I'm not creating a goal when I'm on the ice, we're not scoring as a team. He needs more help. Hopefully he gets that. And I'm not too worried about Hughes trying to do too much. He'll find the balance.
Yeah, exactly. Like you said, it was an off night for his standards. That's it. That's all it is. Wanted to at least dive into that quote from Talk It. Okay, so people are asking, no, we're not going to play Family Feud today. We're pushing it to tomorrow, Friday show. It's all Jacob's fault. I'm just kidding. Jacob, do we have enough responses yet?
We need a few more, but the reason we're not doing it today is just because of the watch party. I needed a little more time this morning to prep this show, to prep for Rink Wide, obviously, with us being at Greta going back and forth. So we're just pushing it to tomorrow. We'll have a lot more time to do it properly tomorrow.
It'll be fun. I think we might be in studio tomorrow. Oh, no, we're not going to be. I don't know. People ask if we still have the studio. We do have the studio. We're going to try to get there sometime.
Yeah, I think
we're not sure.
If I think we discussed it, it sounds like we probably can come into studio tomorrow. So we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. Okay, let's get into our poll question. I want to dive into this, Harm. This conversation. I tweeted out the poll question. The poll question today is pretty simple. Would you be okay with the Canucks trading Kevin Lankinen ahead of the NHL trade deadline? A sign of a good poll question is it's split 50.3. Doesn't get closer than that. It's actually 50-50, but just slightly edging out no is 50.3% of voters saying yes, they would be okay with the Canucks trading Kevin Lankinen ahead of the NHL trade deadline. 49.7% say no. A few things to get into when it comes to this. Yesterday on Insider Trading on TSN, Pierre LeBrun reported that the Canucks and Kevin Lankinen are hopeful that they can work something out together and that they're working towards the idea of keeping Lankinen around. Another thing that LeBrun said was that Lankinen's camp is waiting to see what the new salary cap looks like and how that'll change things. LeBrun giving his personal opinion that, where'd it go? Yeah. Mutual desire to extend the relationship, doesn't think that Lankinen can be signed for less than $4 million annually, and of course his side as well, waiting for the NHL to announce the salary cap increase. Looking at contracts around the league, like I don't see how Kevin Lankinen accepts something less than what Mackenzie Blackwood signed for. You've got Joey Decord, who, what was Decord? Was Decord 5.25 or just 5 on the dot? Do you remember off the top of your head?
Can't remember off the top of my head.
Okay. I'll look it up. But
I'm looking it up for you guys.
Yeah, so what I'm saying is, like, it's hard to believe that Lankinen would sign for something less than that. And yes, it's $5 million annually on a 5-year deal, 5x5 for Joey Decord. It's hard to believe that Kevin Lankinen and his camp would look at this body of work that he's put in this season and say, yeah, of course we're going to sign for less than Joey Decord, or of course we're going to sign less than Mackenzie Blackwood. It's going to be interesting to see how it shakes down. But the reason I brought it up is that if the Canucks are ready to make decisions on Brock Besser ahead of the trade deadline, they certainly need to be ready to make one on Kevin Lankinen, in my mind. The context of yesterday's show where we were talking about, okay, if this team makes the playoffs, what are they going to do? And you're talking about how they won't be buyers. Maybe we're not at the point yet where we say they need to be sellers, but at the very least, it feels like a guy like Kevin Lankinen might be on the more expendable side when you take into context that, okay, the Canucks probably aren't challenging for a Stanley Cup this year. And there's people in the chat who are already saying, no, you don't do that. Shelovs has been poo, is what one person said. You can't bring him up. You can't have him back up. And to that, I say I understand where you're coming from, but if you can just play Thatcher Demko and you're not thinking you're really going to contend for a cup last year, like Archer Shelovs played in the playoffs last year. Did it last year, and they got to the second round last year. I'm thinking that if you can get an asset for Kevin Lankinen, you need to at least explore it if you're not going to be able to sign him. I don't think there's much value in going into the playoffs with both guys and then just losing Lankinen in free agency.
Yeah, I would be patient. I'm not at the point yet where I'm saying sell Lankinen, because there's a fine line, right? As much as you're mentioning Shelovs being fine in the playoffs, ultimately he's been disastrous this year. And I don't think it's great to have a situation where he does come up. And let's not forget, even if they, let's say, sell one or both of Miller and Besser at the deadline, there's still a scenario where this team can make the playoffs. Mm-hmm. And yeah, at that point, you're not expecting them to go on a run anyway. But at the same time, like there's got to be a balance. You don't want to completely strip the roster bare either.
You don't want to hamstring your team. Absolutely, you don't.
Especially because of what, to me, that could do for just the vibes around the team. Like I can only imagine how deflating it would be being in that locker room if you're still in an environment where, okay, you sold some pieces, but you're still in the thick of the playoff race, and you want to be competitive and at least help build good vibes for next season. Meanwhile, you've got a Thatcher Demko who still can't really make saves, still is struggling to find his game, and your number two is Archer Shelovs. Like, imagine as a player how deflating it'd be if you're trying to rebuild the vibes, rebuild the culture. You still got a shot to make the playoffs, and you can't trust your goaltending at all. I would find that really, really devastating if I was in that locker room. And at that point, it's a matter, I think, of weighing what would the return for Kevin Lankinen be, right? Because of course, yeah, if somebody said, I'll give you a first round pick for Kevin Lankinen, of course you're making that deal, but you're not getting a first round pick for Kevin Lankinen. Is it a second? Is it a third? And at that point, how do you value that pick relative to just being able to keep him?
The reason I came up with this poll question, and there's people already making the connection in the chat that Jacob Markstrom's down in New Jersey and he's going to miss some time, is what Sheldon Keefe said post-game. I don't remember who it was, but someone ran into him and it looked really bad. Did not look good for Markstrom. There are teams around the league that need goaltending, and there was a report from Patrick Johnson today that in this trade conversation, and he's basically saying that it's basically the Canucks and Rangers. The Rangers are the most serious team about acquiring JT Miller, but that for the trade to work, the Canucks are likely going to have to attach some sort of sweetener. Obviously, that usually means you either retain salary or you give up a prospect, neither of which it seems the Canucks want to do. The Rangers are 6-1-3 in their past 10 games. They are hanging around the playoff conversation, but Jonathan Quick's got a sub-900 save percentage, and his last 3 starts have been especially dreadful. It's been over 5 goals against in his last 3 starts. Against Montreal, gives up 5 goals. Against Dallas, gives up 5 goals. Against Washington, gives up 6 goals. Now, it is worth mentioning that he faced 39 shots and 37 shots against Dallas and Montreal, respectively, so I'm not saying his team's done much in front of him, but like I could look at the Rangers as a team who right now are 2 points out of the Eastern Conference wildcard picture and say, okay, if the Rangers acquire JT Miller in season, it's because they're trying to make the playoffs. I could look at that and say, okay, maybe you can dangle Kevin Lankinen as a sweetener in that trade where you're not going to be able to sign this guy anyway. And again, I'm saying this if the Canucks decide that they can't sign Kevin Lankinen. I'll tell you, I'd be much more happy about them getting rid of a guy that's going to be a pending UFA that they're not going to be able to sign than a prospect, no matter who that prospect is. I don't really care. I'd be on board with hanging on to all the prospects you have and just letting go of a guy like Kevin Lankinen as a sweetener in a trade. Really, that's kind of what made me start going down this line of thinking and start to think about this.
Perhaps, yeah. Do we know when
Markstrom's back?
No. With the Devils, I think they'll be okay just because they have
Jake Allen playing well.
Jake Allen, and he's been playing really well. Just want to check here on so with Shesterkin, I don't know. The thing too is Jonathan Quick, because of how well respected he is as a veteran and how old he is, what he's accomplished, are they really going to look at waiving Quick? Especially because they can ride Shesterkin anyway, and because Quick was so good for them last year, and he was pretty good for them for the first 20, 30-ish games. I don't know how much of a value add Lankinen would be from the Rangers' perspective. Just thinking about that out loud. If it was some no-name backup goaltender, sure, I'm sure the Rangers would look at that and say extra goaltending insurance, why not? But because it's a player with Quick's reputation, stature, the respect level, I don't know how much of a value add Lankinen would be there.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. It just made me start to think about the idea of trading Kevin Lankinen. And again, I still think it's one of these things where we talk about Four Nations break and all this sort of stuff. I still think the Lankinen ordeal is one that you do wait and see, because I think people's reaction to this, and again, I know it was 50-50, I think people's reaction to this strongly shifts to the yes side if you think Thatcher Demko, or if you see Thatcher Demko figure out his game. And I've said it all week, and I believe that the best way to do that is by getting him a bunch of starts, and that's what they're doing right now. I think he's going to find his game. I will say that. I don't think it's a matter of, Demko's knee, he's cooked. I think it's just a game speed thing for Demko. I think that's all it is. I think he's going to figure it out. I really, really do. And maybe I'm wrong. But I think that's why I'm more on the yes side for trading Kevin Lankinen, even though I love the guy. If you're not going to be able to re-sign him, or you think it's going to be just too rich for your liking, and you believe that Thatcher Demko is going to figure it out, then I think, yeah, you can look at moving him at least. Anyways, there was one. Oh, yeah. Adam Morris was asking why we're talking about this, if there's any reporting. I think you might have missed it. At the top, we were talking about Pierre LeBrun's report between the Lankinen camp and Demko. No talks yet. Haven't been serious contract talks yet between the two sides. Lankinen side is waiting for the NHL to announce the salary cap increase. And then there's new goalie extensions changing the market as well. But there has been a mutual desire to extend the relationship past this season, but that only means so much, really. It's dollars and cents that at the end of the day that's going to make it. So we'll see. And there's people in the chat saying Lankinen is not worth $5 million per year. Well, you look at what Decord signed for, you look at what Blackwood signed for. I would be a little shocked if the Canucks, or any team for that matter, got Lankinen for under $5 million. Teams need goalies, Harm. Teams need goalies. They absolutely do.
Yeah, but I get it. I'm not disagreeing with your take that he's going to get paid, but $5 million to me would be absurd for a goaltender.
I think it's way too high.
Who has had 1 year of success as a 1A goaltender.
But I'll also say I think Decord at $5 million and Blackwood over $5 million is also absurd. That's what I'm saying. Is I think those are bad contracts, and Lankinen at $5 million would be a bad contract, even though that's what the market's saying he should get. I think that's a bad contract. I think those are two bad contracts.
I just hate the idea of giving mid goaltenders big term in dollars. It's
absolutely
they're so volatile.
Yeah, I'm with you guys, but even looking at Decord, it's kind of crazy. Before last season in Seattle, he had played 14. He'd played 19 NHL games.
Yeah, he was their third goalie.
Yeah, people in the chat talking about Lankinen, this is only his first year as a 1A. Is he going to get $5 million? Well, that's what happened with Decord last year. That was his first year as a 1A. He played 50 games and got a 5x5. So it's not. We're not saying that these contracts are worth it. We're just saying that this is what is being given to those type of goaltenders right now.
Yeah, and that's all it comes down to, right? You can't go into a negotiation in the NHL and say, well, we don't want to give you that, even though that's what everybody else in the market's signing right now. That's not how it works. That's basically how an NHL contract negotiation works, is you pull up comparables and you work together to find a number. And those are going to be two comparables, Blackwood and Decord. Those are going to be two comparables from the Lankinen camp here. So like it or not, similar age, similar numbers, all that sort of stuff you want to talk about. Lankinen's going to be due for a raise here. So yeah, that's the thing. Calvin 99 Charlie, who's don't trade Lankinen. He's talking about, 1.5 to 2 million at most. 3 million is pushing it. If Kevin Lankinen signs his next NHL deal for 1.5 to 2 million, I'll learn to do a backflip and do it on the show. Like, it's not happening. It won't happen at that number. It's just that's Fantasyland. It's Fantasyland. So that's why we're having this conversation. For those wondering why we're having this conversation, that's why we're having it. You ready to get to anyone else, Harm?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Let's get to anyone else, which is brought to you by Greta. Folks, you still have time to buy a ticket. I think we're at 100 people now, so we're getting up there, but we still got room for you. We still got room for you if you want to come out to our event tonight. It is selling well. There's so much memorabilia tonight. There's a signed, I think I'm allowed to advertise this because I saw pictures of it. There's a signed Marcus Naslund photo up for grabs. We've got signed Nils Höglander draft puck. We've got all sorts of giveaway stuff, signed memorabilia, tickets to games, lots of different stuff. Jerseys, all that sort of stuff to be won. Although I did say to Jared, our guy helping us put this all together, he was like, oh yeah, I got some tickets. I was like, oh, I hope that doesn't disincentivize people from coming. But no, we do have tickets. It's going to be good. It's going to be good. It's all brought to you by Fountain Tire, and it's in support of One Broken Biker. Get your ticket, nationgear.ca. And folks, I know Thursday, we're going to miss Travis Wall tonight, but it is a 6 p.m. start, so you'll be able to be home at a decent time. Doors open at 5 p.m. Come eat your dinner at Greta. They got the street food menu. It's phenomenal. Get yourself some poutine, the mac fries. I think that's what I'm going to do tonight is the mac fries. But anyways, people don't need to know about my order. I'm going to order tonight at Greta. That's where I'm having dinner. Make sure you come out. Going to be a great time. And I'll play someone. I'll play a listener in basketball because Harmon's not going to be there. But anyways, Greta.
Yeah, no, you might finally have a chance to win.
Okay. Greta Bar YVR is the place to be tonight. Come hang out with us. 6 p.m. start. Canucks. Oilers. Okay. Conversation. Jacob, you need to comment on this. Conversation in the chat say the Family Feud questions were ruthless this week.
I wouldn't call them ruthless. It's funny. The questions seem difficult, but looking at the data, there's a lot of very clear number 1 and 2 answers. Like, you guys will be fine.
You say that every week, and we.
Oh no, I know. I say that
every week.
Okay, I've pulled this up right now. One of the questions, first off, there's only like 8 possible answers because of how the question's written, and 4 of them are. And only 5 of the 8 have even been picked, and you'll know which 5.
Jacob.
Scrolling through here, there's like one guy, one person who would be a number 1 or 2 answer for 3 of the questions right now. So, like, you guys will be okay.
Okay, theoretically, how many votes do we need? How many more do we need?
We need looks like 21 more responses.
Oh, okay. Probably not going to happen by the end of the show then. I was going to say, if I tell everybody watching this right now to go fill out the survey, link is in the description, and we got the answers in within like 5 minutes, I was going to ask if you could somehow have Family Feud ready to go for today's episode.
No, it takes a lot of work on the back end to sort all the data, right? Put it into a spreadsheet. That way I can actually tally up your scores without having to sit there and count. So, all right. Unfortunately, it's just got to wait till tomorrow.
By the way, last week I was listening in on you and J-Pat doing it. Okay, the one question that didn't make any sense to me was assuming Filip Hronek is the first pair D and Tyler Myers is the third pair D, who will be the Canucks' second pair D by the end of the season. It was the answer is Tyler Myers. For the question to have him on the third pair is just like there is no right answer there.
I said Noah Juleson. I think Noah Juleson got a lot of votes.
Well, no, it didn't. Harm. I was phrasing the question so that people would pick Tom Wielander.
He's not going to be the second pair D.
Well, I phrased it in a way where it's like, hey, at the end of the regular season, not the playoffs, end of the regular season, who's on the second pair? And
it's not going to be Tom Wielander.
All right. Well, the listeners thought so. He was the number 1 answer.
Well, yeah, because there were like no other realistic options. The answer by a long shot is Tyler Myers. Even if Wielander turns pro, he'll be playing on a third pair.
That's semantics there, third pair, second pair.
I was, on behalf of Quads and JPAT, I was very annoyed hearing that question.
Oh, man. Jacob's probably thinking, oh, thank God Harmon's not here to criticize the question. Then he gets it a week later. Harmon's just waiting to bring it up. That is so funny. Max1 in the chat asking, where can I vote for Feud? The link is in the description. It'll be on YouTube. It'll be on podcast, wherever it is. Yeah. And Kelly Canuck said this as well. The thing is, it takes me longer than 25 or 30 seconds to answer the question. See, people have time to think about it, Jacob. We don't have time. Extend the timer. Hashtag extend the timer.
Yeah, the timer's already extended from how it's supposed to be. How about you guys just win? Plain and simple. Just show up and win.
We're going to win. We're going to win.
Whole idea.
Yeah. Okay.
You should try that one. We haven't tried that one before.
Yeah, we'll do it.
Harm is all over me right now. Just no. You know what? You know what though, Harm? You've done well in feud. I would say you've outscored quads this year.
Yeah, we've honestly, in all seriousness, the feud's been fine. Like, I don't have any major complaints about it being too hard or unfair. We just need to pick it up.
Okay. All right. Did you see this story? This was brought up by RELC, regular listener of the show, regular contributor to the show, made the bet tracker for us, made the bingo card for us as well. RELC said this. Turns out we can add victim of real estate fraud to the possible reasons why EP40 has been struggling. Did you see this story today, Harm?
Yeah.
So for those that haven't seen it, the Hockey News not broke it, but they kind of shared it in English. There was a story out of Sweden that Elias Pettersson was the victim of real estate fraud. The headline was Elias Pettersson defrauded by convicted Swedish real estate broker. Pettersson tried to buy a 2.5 something million villa in north of Stockholm, made the deposit on it, and as somebody that just bought a pre-sale, and I think I said that on this show, but as somebody that just bought a pre-sale, this made me double check with my everything I had going on right now, because you make your deposit obviously, and Pettersson made his deposit and then it was gone. You can read the story at the Hockey News. I'm sure we'll get it at Canucks Army at some point. But Pettersson's dad spoke with the Sundsvall Tidning. I might ask Chris how to pronounce that. A regional newspaper. Turned out that the house had many flaws that needed to be fixed. The money's gone. Just forget about it and move on, is what the elder Pettersson said. It equated to about $240,000 US. So again, it might not seem significant, and I can already imagine everybody's like, oh, 11.6. I know everybody's going to be saying that, but look, it's still your money that is just stolen from you, and apparently the guy that did it is just facing all sorts of legal issues in Sweden right now. What did I read? 6 lawsuits or something? 6 ongoing lawsuits or something? No, sentenced to 6 years in prison for fraud in cases that didn't even include Pettersson's. So, yeah, pretty unfortunate for Elias Pettersson, but someone brought it up. We wanted to bring it up as well. Just unfortunate. It's just, yeah, pretty crappy situation for Pettersson.
Yeah, super bad luck, and hopefully that realtor has is. I mean, I was gonna say
stays in prison.
But, like, yeah, you stay in prison, do your time. Like, this is you can't be out here because here's the thing. Like, for a guy like Pettersson, it's fine. He can remake the money, but think about the people who aren't professional athletes, don't make millions of dollars a year, and think about those people that got scammed. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. Yeah, it's just stupid. It's just, yeah. Anyways, okay. Where did we go here? Do we have anything in anyone else?
I did ask for some submissions.
I don't think there's anything in here.
Yeah, there's been a couple, but yeah, chat, send us some anyone else's. We still got time for today's show.
I got something that I'll bring up. So people were trying to guess which hat I'd wear on today's show. Only one person got it right, but he got it right after I said that I was I was wearing one that people hadn't guessed yet. Wearing the Padres hat today, but we had guesses for A's, Milwaukee. Jacob put some odds on it as well. Milwaukee minus 120, A's plus 150, Tigers plus 200. You know, Tigers, I'm liking that Tigers hat a lot. I'll tell you, that Tigers hat is going to get worn more than the A's hat. I'll tell you that for sure. And Jackson Brar said no hat, plus 1,000 odds. Yeah, I like wearing my hats. I like wearing hats. I'm a hat guy for sure. Okay, I had one thing that I wanted to say. And it kind of circles back to this whole conversation about Garland, McDavid, all that, right? I was wondering about this from the perspective of the rule stuff that I was talking about yesterday. You remember when I was talking about Roger Nielsen sending out the player when there was a final minutes of the game, and it's like, well, we're shorthanded, but it doesn't matter. We're just going to cheat because you can just put our whole team in the box. We're going to run time down the clock and have guys on the ice. And we talked about it yesterday. And for those that may have missed it, I'll quickly break it down. Final minutes of the game, you're protecting a lead. Roger Nilsson, so the story goes, keeps sending guys over the bench, and the refs just kept penalizing guys, but it didn't really matter because delayed penalty doesn't matter. You use the whole bench, you're going to have the equal amount of guys for as long as you want. You just keep cheating, keep sending guys over the boards. There's a very specific rule in the NHL rulebook now about doing that and how that results in a penalty shot. That's why no one does it anymore. It results in a penalty shot. I don't think you can do the same with a regular delayed penalty because that is such a intentional violation of the rules, Harm, that it makes sense to assign a penalty shot at that point. Like, you need to deliberately think about doing that. But is there a way? Is there any way that you can prohibit doing what Garland did against McDavid, where he holds the best player in the league down and locks down a win? It was super smart. Is there anything that the league can do? Because a delayed penalty doesn't do anything. They're just going to have Stuart Skinner go to the bench. Like, it's not going to do anything. Is there anything that the league can do here?
Well, one, I don't think this is going to be a common tactic or strategy that anybody repeats, which is where it would become a problem that the league needs to address. But if it ever did get to that point, I think you could just amend it where if there's certain criteria with limited time left on the clock and empty net situation, defending teams potentially taking a penalty, that you just blow the play right away. Like, it doesn't need to be a delayed penalty. The defending team doesn't need to touch the puck. You just blow it right away, penalize them, and then they, of course, have to go shorthanded.
Do you know what I thought of? I thought of the idea that I don't know how you do it. It could maybe be the puck carrier. Maybe it could be the coach. If there's a delayed penalty, the team that's possessing the puck can just tell the ref, yeah, we want the whistle. Because, look, when there's a delayed penalty, teams are going to want to take their shots on goal. But the rule I thought of is just amending it so that, like, if there's a delayed penalty, the team that has the puck can just tell the ref, yeah, we want the whistle. We don't need the delayed call. And it's similar to what you're saying about, yeah, just blow it down. I think, yeah, just making it so someone, whether it be the coach, whether it be the puck carrier or whoever, can just say, yep, blow the whistle. We want the whistle. I can't think of a reason that wouldn't work. And I'm sure someone will come up with one. But that was the first thing I thought of when I was thinking about how do you change this rule? That was the first thing I thought.
I've got another anyone else. I had texted this to you before. Last night, actually. This is really funny. I'm trying to find it. Give me a sec.
Take your time. It's
basically
Calvin's birthday today. Or Colin. Wait, Colin's birthday. Yeah. Happy birthday to Colin.
So basically, you know your owner quad shtick, where it's just like, oh yeah, just trade all your future first round picks away. So it turns out there was an NBA owner that did the owner quad strategy of trading all his future firsts several seasons in advance. And the NBA had to implement a couple of rules against it. So one of them is called, I'm trying to find it. Basically, you can't trade. It's called the 7-year rule. It prohibits teams from trading draft picks more than 7 years in advance. So right off the bat, NBA had to do that. And there's another rule.
7 years is the amendment? How far ahead were this guy's picks?
So
did it say in the story that you sent me?
No,
it
didn't.
Did.
I'm looking it up, but I vaguely remember this story, and it was like way in advance.
Keep talking, Harm.
And then the other part of it is a team cannot trade consecutive future first round picks. Where it's like, okay, let's say we're in 2024 right now. You can't as an NBA team trade your 2026 and 2027 picks now. Like, you can, it's a weird strategy where it's like, you can trade your first round pick every year, but you have to be in that year to trade that pick. So it's like, you can't trade, if you've already traded away your 2026 first round pick, you can't trade your 2027 first round pick until you actually get to 2027. And it's to prevent people like owner quads mortgaging the future by just trading all their picks away.
I don't understand what the problem is.
That rule is called the Stepien rule, because a GM, that one was a GM of the Cleveland Cavaliers, and he traded away a bunch of picks in the 80s, and the team sucked, and they couldn't rebuild, so they were just constantly the worst team in the league for a while. And the NBA literally had to step in and say, you can't trade first-round picks in multiple years because this will happen if you guys underperform. So the league had to step in the same way. I'm still trying to find out with that 7-year rule how long it was, but I want to say like they were trading picks 10 years in advance.
Yes, so I've recently discovered that ChatGPT is very helpful for figuring out stuff like this, and I asked ChatGPT which picks were traded, and yes, it was the 1982, 83, 84, 85, and 86 trade, all at the same time, like very, very close. And he did all of this before 1980. So yes, it was years and years and years in advance. I love it. I think that's so funny. It's great. It's great. That's so funny. I'm glad that was a good pull, Harm. That's a really good pull. That's so funny. Oh, we didn't mention this. Calvin Pickard starts in net for the Oilers tonight. Not Stuart Skinner tonight. Calvin Pickard, who's a fine goalie. Not like anybody's like, oh yeah, we really wanted to dodge Stuart Skinner. I don't think Stuart Skinner has that effect on anybody. But worth noting for sure that Calvin Pickard and his .897 save percentage are in net tonight for the Oilers.
Yeah, a little bit of edge there, because as much as we like to make jokes at the expense of Stuart Skinner, he has actually been pretty good the last couple months.
He has been. He still has an .899 on the year, but yes, he has.
I think
been
it was like
a bit better.
Last several weeks, there was like a stat where he's got a 916 or something. He's been better. He had a horrible start, but been picking it up lately.
Okay, this one from RELC. We'll close out on this one. Looking forward to what Sherwood might do tonight after him saying, if they're going to be sensitive and entitled, we'll just continue to use that. I think that series goes a little differently if Kiefer Sherwood's on the Canucks side last year. I'll say that. I think that's a fine take to have.
Yeah, it's just between Sherwood, Höglander, and Garland. You have 3 elite agitators.
And Zadorov. You had Zadorov too at the time.
Yeah. Ultimately, and here's the thing too, especially Game 7, how much better would the Canucks be if instead of having Phil DiGiuseppe bumped up to the top 6 because Brock Besser is unavailable, you're able to bump up Kiefer Sherwood.
Yep.
Especially given the couple chances that PDG had in that game.
Yep. Hey, he scored. We didn't even mention that. That was the funny thing. We didn't even mention that Phil DiGiuseppe scored his first goal of the game, or goal of the year, excuse me, in that game.
We did, though. I mentioned it because I was saying like you got free money last game.
Oh, we did mention it. You're right. Yeah, the free money thing. Free money Phil. That's a good nickname. Write it down. Okay. Anything else you wanted to get to before our Bet365 bet of the day?
Nope.
Okay, let's get to it. Our Bet365 bet of the day is brought to you by Bet365, proud partner of Canucks Conversation. Okay, what do we like tonight? Was I right last night? What did I pick? Jacob, did you write it down?
Yep, I've got it. You took the Jets plus 100, and they won in overtime.
Nice. Never any doubt. Okay, win in overtime. Love it. Okay. Let's see here. What do we like? We like the... Ooh, this is a tough one. They're not heavy favorites, but they are favorites, and I'm going to take them. The Calgary Flames are facing the Buffalo Sabres tonight.
Let's go Calgary Flames hockey team.
And we're going to take them. We're going to take those Flames. It's a Wagon Flames bet. It's the minus 140 win. Actually, no, wait. Hang on. Here's something, Harm. Canucks fans probably right now, at the start of the season, nobody cared about the Wagon Flames bit, and nobody cared about the Flames money line bets. But, like, the Canucks are pacing with the Flames right now for the playoffs. And the Flames are what's standing in the way of the Canucks actually making the playoffs. And it's getting a little too close for comfort. So I don't think I can keep taking Flames money line. I don't think I can. I'm going to take the Buffalo Sabres tonight. We're taking the Sabres. Plus 120. Our Sabres, underdog. We're taking the Sabres to beat the Calgary Flames tonight in Calgary. Plus 120. There you go. That was our bet of the day, brought to you by Bet365. Open an account with Bet365 today and bet on a huge range of markets. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Be sure to use code NATION when you sign up for an account. Must be 90 plus to play. If you choose to play, please play responsibly. Write that one down, Jacob. Sabres plus 120.
Yep, it's already on. It's already on the tracker.
Take down the Flames. Cali Canucks calling it the bandwagon Flames. All right, we'll see what happens. See what happens tonight. All right, final thoughts, Harm?
I'm just excited for the game tonight. There are very few regular season games that you're hyped for. I'm hyped for this one.
Gonna be a good one. You can watch it with us over at Greta. Get your tickets, nationgear.ca. Brimpy Shingle saying in the chat, yeah, the Flames bit is getting far too real. We'll tone it down a notch. We'll close it out there. For my co-host Harmon Dowland, technical producer Jacob Lazar. My name is Dave Wardrelli. Thanks so much for the episode of Canucks Conversation. Canucks Conversation is live Monday through Friday, every weekday at 2 p.m. over on the Canucks Army YouTube channel. Make sure you like, subscribe, and interact in the YouTube live chat every day with us, folks.